So let's have a little chat, shall we? Let's have a little chat on the late night. I've been meaning to come through and talk about some things. I'm eating some raspberry sherbet, so forgive me. So good. But let's have a little chat. The world gets crazier and crazier from the perspective of the observer. Because I really don't consider myself part of this world. I may live in the world, but I'm not of this world, if you understand what I'm saying, because I am so glad that the great high spirit of all creation, of all eternity, instilled in me the gift of spiritual intuition and the gift of discernment. Discernment has nothing to do with being a Christian. That is a spiritual universal gift that has nothing to do with a religion. I want to talk about Christianity and how Christianity is morphing into more and more than it even was before, into a cult mentality. And it's morphing into a terrorist or terroristic network. Christianity has always been a terrorist or a terroristic network that was used by racist white people to terrorize and to harm blacks. Those are just facts. And because Christianity is not practiced the way that it should be practiced, people find themselves in this mess that they're in now. Saturday, I went to the store and it was raining here in the DC area Saturday. And I caught a lift there. The first driver, nice guy. At least he was to me. On my way back home, got another lift. And this driver was very interesting. He was Hispanic. His name was Jose. I'm putting his name out there. Yes, I am. He was morbidly obese. And when I say morbidly obese, I'm not talking about being a little chubby like I am. He was so fat that his chin was almost touching his mouth. That type of obese. And it's always those types of men with that description. It's always those type, no matter what the race is, but it's always those types of men who looked like the penguin from Batman 2. What was his name? Let me look it up. I'm going to look it up. What was the name of the penguin in Batman 2? Oswald Os, Oswald Cobblepot. It's always these Oswald Cobblepot looking types of men who are problematic a lot of the times. And then they want us to say or to believe that that is masculinity or that's masculine energy. No, that's not masculine energy. That is a man with an inferiority complex mixed in with effeminate energy, not to be confused with feminine energy. There's a difference between effeminate energy and feminine energy. One is divine and the other is created through trauma and abuse and environmental factors. So it was raining. When he pulled up, he did not even come to the curbside to pick me up. He made me walk across the parking lot in the rain. I mean, it wasn't raining, like Noah's Ark or anything like the Great Flood, but it was raining, okay? And I had some bags with me. I didn't need him to help me with my bags. I'm a big, strong guy. I can handle my own shit. I can walk from here to Jerusalem if I wanted to on water. He didn't even pull up to the curb. He made me walk across the parking lot into the rain. And I didn't mind walking across the parking lot, but it's just the principle. I already knew when I saw his picture pop up on the Lyft app, I already knew that he was going to be a problem. I told you, them Oswald Cobblepot looking motherfuckers, they are always a problem. Yeah, I'm going to be a little bit messy tonight. So I get in his car. He speaks. I didn't speak back to him. How are you? How are you going to speak to me when you've already started off being a rude person? This is not a free ride. This wasn't a free ride. I paid him that ride from that particular store back to my house, which is really not a long, long distance. That wasn't no free, inexpensive ride. So he tried to speak to me, and I didn't say anything. Normally, I would say, no, I'll go ahead and speak. But you know what? I said, fuck. In my mind, I was like, fuck no, I'm not speaking to him. And this is no shade against, Latino, Hispanic people, because most of the time I get along with Hispanic men. This one, it was just a wayward one. Okay. But most of the time, Latino men and Hispanic men, though, I like them. I tend to like them a lot. I don't have that contentious relationship with them as I do with black men or even white men, because white men, they're interesting in their energies as well. So as we approach, or as we get closer to my home, I said to him, oh, by the way, I'm forgetting something. The point of me even bringing this up, he was playing Christian, modern Christian, or contemporary Christian music as he was taking me home. It's always one of those types. They have some of the most demonic and some of the most low vibrating. And when I say demonic, I don't mean daemons of a certain hierarchy, because there are daemons that are within a certain higher hierarchy. No, I'm talking about low level demonic energy. They are some of the most demonic and they are some of the most shameful. I'm talking about Christians and religious people in general. As we were approaching and getting closer to my house, I said to him, I said, hey, your GPS may send you a long it may cause you to go a longer route to get to my house. I said, but you can take this shorter route so you won't have to take a longer route to get to my house. So his face started frowning all up. I saw it I saw it in his body language. I was polite. I just wasn't making no pleasantries with him. And that's another thing. Nobody has to speak to you. If somebody don't want to speak to you, they don't have to speak to you. I don't really care who don't speak to me and who don't speak to me. I can walk past a person and pretend like they're dead to me. They're nothing but a void. And I'm okay with that. So his face, excuse me, frowned it all up, got all frowned up. Well, the way you're telling me to go, this is illegal way. I was like, what are you talking about? I said, I only said that to you because a lot of times the GPS will take drivers the longer route to get to my home. And it was only a question of making a turn and another turn. That's it. He said that's an illegal route. The only way it would have been an illegal route if there were do not enter signs or one way signs and you did not follow those directions, none of which were there, by the way. So he was just being a bitch. He was just being a bitch. So I explained to him, I said, well, sir, the only reason I told you to go this way is because it's shorter, it's a shorter route. And I said, no other Lyft drivers that I have instructed, and I do mean none, have ever given me an issue about that. He wanted to bait me into an argument because people like him are frustrated right now. They're disgruntled and they're very unhappy because they have a hard on for Charlie Kirk. And they're upset because he was ultimately unalived. And they're upset about that. Because what that shows is, see, it's not what people. Well, let me finish telling you the story. So he tried to say, God bless you, have a good day. I got out of his truck and I didn't open my mouth. I got my bags, got out of his truck, and didn't open my mouth. But I did report that fat motherfucker after I got out that fucking truck. I most certainly did. Instead of him worrying about listening to music about Jesus, he needs to worry about his health before he ends up meeting Jesus with a chin that is that big and a throat that is that big. And like I said, I ain't being no hypocrite. I'm a chubby boy myself, but I ain't that. I'm not that. And I can walk up and down steps. I can walk and stand for hours at a time. My heart is strong, very strong. I just had a physical. So instead of him worrying about listening to Jesus types of music, he needs to get up off his ass and take responsibility for his obesity. That's what he needs to do. But this stuff with Charlie Kirk has really opened up a demonic portal. The spirit really want me to say that. It's something spirit is telling me to say. But I don't know if I want to say that. I don't know if I want to say it. I will say this much. There's a connection between George Floyd and Charlie Kirk's death. There's a connection. They both were Libras. They both were Libras. I believe their birthdays are on the same day. See, I can see the ritual right now. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because I've noticed that ever since his death, people were already crazy, but people are becoming crazier and more psychotic and more sociopathic. I've been listening to Judge Joe Brown. He's been doing interviews. And disclaimer, I don't have anything against Judge Joe Brown. I've never had anything against him. And I know the difference between a masculine man who is exercising and exuding his masculinity, which they have a right to do as a straight heterosexual man. I don't ever tell a heterosexual man you don't have the right to exercise your masculinity. But see, the problem, this is where the problem comes in, and this is where misrepresentation or misleading or misinformation starts to come in. Because all of this ties into what I'm talking about: Charlie Kirk, Judge Joe Brown, the morbidly obese Lyft driver. I have a story about a morbidly obese black Lyft driver as well, a black man who flipped out on me as well one time because I was going to get him to take me places whenever I needed to go. I would just pay him on the side. Called him up one time, he flipped out on me for no reason. And he was a lot bigger than this Hispanic one. He could barely fit in his seat. And I'm not making fun of nobody's weight or anything like that. I'm not doing that. What I'm saying is people with problems like that should not be going around trying to be passive aggressive bullies. People with problems like that, you can bet this black dude that was a Lyft driver that flipped out on me years ago because he was jealous or probably mad because I wasn't coming on to him. This dude could barely fit in his car seat. I mean, at what point do you say, "Hey, listen, I need to push away from the table"? And like I said, I ain't being no hypocrite. I'm a fat boy too. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not that. I'm not that. Y'all talk about women's weight, but can't nobody talk about your weight? This man could barely fit in his seat, this other Lyft driver that I'm talking about. He could barely fit in his seat. He looked like he could barely breathe. So at what point do you say enough is enough? So I understand that. You know what I'm saying? And the only reason I'm bringing that up is because problematic people that look like that, they need to stop blaming society for their problems. So I've been listening to Judge Joe Brown, like I was saying, and he's been doing a lot of interviews, giving his opinion on certain things and of that nature. Like I said, I would never tell a straight man that he doesn't have the right to exude or exercise his masculinity. But when you start, but see, like, let me go back to what I was saying originally. The problem is that men don't know how to be balanced. They think being masculine means being an asshole, being a bully, harassing people, physically and psychologically abusing people, and being a predator. And that is what masculinity has been confused for. Those things I just named. You see it in people like Andrew Tate. You saw it in Tommy Sotomayor. You saw it in Charlie Kirk. And I don't give a fuck who gets offended. I said it and I ain't taking it back. Deal with it. There are different levels of being a bully. And listening to Judge Joe Brown, he's a bully. He's a nasty, very dark, despicable bully. Yeah, I said it. He has no self control over the things he says out of his mouth. The gay community has always been around. It's just that now the gay community is shifting and changing. But the gay community has always been around, even in ancient cultures. So I don't understand what Judge Joe Brown's gripe is so much. I understand promoting agendas and trying to force certain things on people. I understand that. But what I don't understand is this: why are you all pretending like these? I'm talking about Judge Joe Brown types. Why are you pretending like you didn't have a problem with gay people in the beginning? Same thing like with Umar Johnson. Babatunde, Alakunde, Afatunde, and all that shit. They just simply don't like gay people. And that's fine. That's their prerogative. But what you do not have the right to do is to keep coming out here making derogatory statements about every gay person who does not represent the side of the LGBT community that you find to be undesirable. Just like there are different types of black people, there are different types of gay people as well. There are agenda based gay people, and there are regular gay people like myself who are just living their lives. I'm a spiritual gay person, not a religious one. And I go by my own fucking rules. And I do what the fuck I want to. And that is why I'm a problem. Like James Baldwin. He was a rebel too. Judge Joe Brown is problematic. And I'm going to tell you why he's problematic. With everything that's going on in this country right now, in terms of racism, oppression, prejudice, with everything that's going on in this country right now, the only thing he can talk about is gay people. I don't know if you all knew this, but he and Judge Mathis are beefing right now. He has been talking really slick and really reckless about Judge Mathis. And the root of it is Judge Mathis's support for his gay son. So, because he supports his gay son, who is an adult, by the way, and I know people want to say, well, Judge Joe Brown was the one who said, well, he supports the Rainbow Gang and all that other stuff. You know what I'm saying? Well, how about this? The Rainbow Gang, as you all call it, that does not apply to every gay person. Because there are gay people, excuse me, there are those of us, let me say it that way, who operate on a higher vibration and frequency, and we are above being in cults, and we are above being in groups. Not saying that we're better, but we are the observer watching the observed. He has a problem with Judge Mathis supporting his son, who came out, who came out recently and said he was gay. And to be totally honest with you, I find Judge Joe Brown's comments to be offensive, appalling, and absolutely disgusting. And it really shows he's always talking about people having a inferiority complex. But in actuality, you are the soft, effeminate cancer man with the effeminate with the I'm sorry, with the insecurity or inferiority complex. That's you. Because your definition of being a masculine man is being a problematic man, being a disagreeable man, being an abusive man, being a bully. And those are all weak qualities. Those are men that cannot control themselves. I have so much respect for Judge Mathis. You know why I have respect for Judge Mathis? And I know he has a reputation as well. He's not perfect, but I have respect for him because as a black, straight, heterosexual man, he did not turn his back on his gay black son because so many black men are so toxic and they're so hateful and they're so broken and they're so despicable in their ways when it comes to their own people that they will turn their backs on somebody for simply being gay, but you won't turn your back on somebody for being a sexual deviant and violating people like you all set up and defended Bill Cosby, like you all set up and defended I'm sorry, and defended P. Diddy, Umar Johnson. But for somebody being gay, two consenting adults, you're worried about that. That's just one of the most horrible things you could possibly be. When most of you motherfucking niggas out here beating on women, you out here sucking dick and taking dick up your ass, including probably let me be quiet, I ain't gonna say that. And then telling people that they're wrong for being gay. To be honest with you, I never even knew Judge Mathis had it. Well, his son came out recently, but upon further investigation, Judge Mathis also said he had a gay brother and that his mother accepted him. He said, and that was his favorite brother. James Baldwin, the activist, and I think he was a poet as well. And I remember Bobby Hemmett talking about this. He would have to show the heterosexual men how to go down to the South. He would train them and show them how they would have to, when they went down to the South during the Civil Rights Movement, he showed them how to stay alive and how to survive because that's what we do. We survive. Now, again, I understand about agendas and bullshit like that, but this ain't about no agendas. This is about a cantankerous, bitter, hateful old man who is angry and bitter because his wife left him. And I can understand why. Because throughout all of this, let me go back for a moment. I've never heard Judge Mathis talk about anything in reference to LGBT or anything until recently. And that's what Judge Joe Brown is shaming him about. He's subtly shaming him for accepting his son. Well, my question to Judge Joe Brown is, where the fuck are your children at? Do you even have a relationship with your two children? Because word on the curb is you don't. May be false, but word on the curb is you don't. And then when he was going through his divorce in 2017, he got married in his 50s. Judge Joe Brown got married in his 50s. Now, I'm not saying you know, it's never too late to get married. It's never too late. But he sits up on this high soapbox like he is the paragon for masculinity. Do you know that most of these men that are trying to teach heterosexual men about masculinity, do y'all know, and I want you heterosexual men to come to me very closely because I can see the signs. Do you know that most of those men are hyper masculine and homoerotic? And they're really undercover homosexuals, not gay men. They're undercover homosexuals. There's a difference between being gay and being homosexuals. Homosexuals have no conscience, have no consciousness. Homosexuals are the type of men who will deceive women. They will lie to women and tell them that they're straight, and they have no conscience and they will mistreat women. Do you all know that most of these men that you're listening to, manospheres and all them other motherfuckers, do you realize no matter how much they speak out against homosexuality, they've been ritualized? They've been ritualized through homosexual sex. Homosexuals don't have any loving, redeemable qualities. They can have sex with men and not love men or get any emotional attachments to men. That is a homosexual. A gay person, we have emotions, we have feelings, we have spirit, we have soul, and we have consciousness. They do not. And then they put these men in front of us preaching and hiding behind the Bible and Christianity and masculine, fake masculinity, which is really effeminism, effeminization, masking it as masculinity, and then telling people that it's wrong to be gay. While all along, while supporting men who have been reported to have been in homosexual relationships. Just like Umar Johnson was defending P. Diddy, he was defending him. Do you know that most of these men that you're listening to who are trying to tell you about masculinity, you're more masculine than them? These are weak, inferior men with hypermasculinity issues because they are subliminally homosexual. It's the same thing with, what was his name? The Menendez father. Was his name Jose Menendez? Was that his name? The Menendez father of the Menendez brothers. He was up under that ritualistic homosexual energy as well. He could have sex with men for power source, as a power source, or to pull power or frequency and energy from them. But it was never about love because he did the same exact things to his sons. It was never about love with men, it was about ritual. And in the movie on Netflix, they showed Jose Menendez being involved in homosexual relationships with young men and boys. But that doesn't get talked about. And you better know that Judge Joe Brown knows all about that. His perception of masculinity is flawed because his perception of masculinity is being a bully. But you know what? Then that it shouldn't surprise me because he's from Washington, D.C. Did you all know that Judge Joe Brown was born in Washington, D.C.? This man is almost 80 years old, up here beefing with a man that's almost old enough to be his son almost. And I'm talking about Judge Mathis. I'm not saying that Judge Mathis is perfect or whatever the case may be. I know he's involved in, the Hollywood world and all that stuff, but the man accepts his son because he said he grew up around gay people because of his brother. And his brother had a lot of friends. And the mother would let them come to the house. She accepted her son. It was no problem. So if it's not a problem for Judge Joe Mathis, I'm sorry, for Judge Greg, if it's not a problem for Judge Mathis, and it's not a problem for him to accept his son, what the fuck does Judge Joe Brown have to do with that? Especially when it doesn't look like he has a relationship with his children. And to add even more to that, where is his wife at? Oh, that's right. She divorced him, and probably for good reasons. He was up in the court trying to bully the judge that was adjudicating his divorce case back in 2017. The judge held him in contempt of court because he was in the courtroom being verbally abusive towards the judge. Just because you sound right and just because you yell the loudest doesn't make you right. And the driving force behind all of this shit is religion, particularly the religion in this country. The main religion in this country is Christianity. And we're supposed to just sit back and not say anything about it. See, that's the type of world they want us to live in. And I started thinking about something. I started really thinking about something. I said, Christians are always talking about the end of the world and all of these other, fanatic, because they're fanatics. They are fanatics. They are. There's a fanatic um, fraction of that religion. And I thought about something. When you really go back to Revelations and you really understand what Revelations is trying to tell you, not only are they trying to tell you that the Antichrist represents the end of civilization, and when I say the end of civilization, I mean the end of spirituality, the way that it's supposed to be practiced. But when you really study Revelations, when they talk about the one world religion, they're not talking about some religion that's going to be brought into creation. They're talking about Christianity and the corrupt perversion of Christianity. They're talking about the one world perversion of these religions, mainly Christianity, and how Christianity would become a one world terrorist network. And that's exactly what's happening. There was some psychotic man that they arrested. I can't remember the state or the state that he was arrested in, but he wanted to shoot up pride, LGBT pride that was coming to that particular state, but they locked him up. Charlie Kirk is the Antichrist. That's the Antichrist. And when I say the Antichrist, I don't mean in terms of the devil or Satan. No, that's not what I'm talking about. The Antichrist has nothing to do with Satan or Lucifer, contrary to what the Bible says, because the Bible is full of lies and distortions, and it creates a psychosis. Charlie Kirk is causing people to create idols. Charlie Kirk is an example of idolatry worship. He's the Antichrist. They're all worshiping him. He was shot by someone. Some people say that that's not even the guy that shot him. I'm not going down that rabbit hole. He was shot by someone, but he rose again. He rose again because remember they said the Antichrist would be the beast would be killed and then he would rise again. He rose again because he's rising up in different people to continue to terrorize people with his toxicity. This society has effeminized men. And a lot of people, they mistakenly believe effeminization is only local to gay men, or it's only, directed to, or it's only gay men. No, 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 no. I don't wear tight jeans. Now, what I do behind closed doors in my own house, that's something different. But when I go out, I don't wear tight clothes. But you see a lot of straight men wearing tight clothes, long dreadlocks like they're women. But we don't have questions about that. Charlie Kirk is the Antichrist. That is why they're going off over him like that. That is why they're ready to kill and fight for him. Because even though he was unalived, he rose back up in these other people. That's what the book of Revelations was really telling you about. Not one, but there will be many who will try to separate you from spiritual divinity. And I'm not talking about religion or Christianity or Islam. No, I'm talking about real spiritual divinity where you take the blinders off and you can see people for who they really are. Trump is another one. He's another antichrist. You all have been blindly following and worshiping idols, and then you have the unmitigated gall to say that you're Christian when you are going against everything that Christianity stands for. Remember, I used to be a Christian, and I know you're not supposed to worship the preacher. You're not supposed to worship the president. You're not supposed to worship idols. Idolatry is a sin. Just like you all say homosexuality is a sin. Okay, I'll take that. So is idolatry. But they conveniently don't want to accept that because they have a cognitive dissonance. and they have a necrosis of their minds and of their spirits. Oh, we gonna have church today, honey. But this ain't the type of church you used to. You have allowed dark forces, not wisdom as far as darkness, but you have allowed dark forces to blind you from what's right in front of you. Remember in your Bibles, it said that the son of perdition, which is the Antichrist, would destroy many by peace. Isn't that what Charlie Kirk did? He's taking your focus off of your God and you're putting it all on him. You got people out here ready to kill for this man. It's the same thing black people did with George Floyd. Same thing. Anything that takes you away from your own divinity and your own close relationship with the great high spirit or the goddess. And let me throw this in there too, and then I'm going to wrap this up. There are no Anunnakis coming back to save you. There are no alien beings coming to save you. These are all distractions, just like Charlie Kirk, just like the rest of this shit. They're all distractions. I was on Facebook and I heard somebody say that the Pentagon released some type of report that the Anunnakis have come back to Earth. You want to know what they're really talking about? When they start talking about Anunnakis and aliens and all of those things that frighten people, what they're really talking about is an upgrade in a certain group of people's DNA. Let me say it again. They're afraid that there's a certain group of people whose DNA is upgrading. There are certain groups. I'm not going to say who they are. Not getting into that. So all of this shit that they have been doing for the past 9 or 10 years, Donald Trump, COVID-19, all of these things that they have done that has been going on for the past 9 to 10 years, racism. They told you in 2012 the world was going to end. They told you it was going to end in 2000 as well. There have been multiple ends of civilization so they can birth new ones to keep you trapped down in fear. So when they say that the Anunnaki is coming back, or there is, what did they say in that Pentagon report? That there is alien beings at war here on Earth. No, there are no alien beings physically at war. The war is going on inside of the DNA and genetics of certain groups of people. And they're trying to shut that down. And you don't even you can guess who those groups of people are. Remember how your Bible say in the last days the devil was going to really show his motherfucking ass because he knew his end was near. But I don't that's neither here nor there. But what's really unfolding, I'm going to say it without saying it. What's really unfolding is that there are certain groups of people who are afraid because there is an upgrade in the DNA and genetics. DNA stands for divine natural anatomy. We have two forms of DNA. your physical DNA and your spiritual DNA. The spiritual DNA can't be touched. So they can only go by the physical DNA. Okay? There is something going on within the divine natural anatomy of certain groups of people. And there are certain groups of people who are afraid of that. So what do? They create stories about three L or three I Atlas, that unidentified object that's hurling towards the earth, or whatever you call it, that's hurling across the universe. They know exactly what that is. But they want to keep you focused up there instead of in here. And I'm pointing towards my chest. They want you to focus about what you notice everything they tell you, the air. Oh, it's something going on up there in the air, in the air. No, it's about what's going on inside of you. It's about what's going on with us as a collective human consciousness and race. But the problem is they keep interjecting fear, racism, homophobia, hatred, and they keep putting these many antichrists in front of us to distract us and deflect us from doing our real spiritual work. And the things they tell you that are bad are actually not bad. They just don't want you to tap into stuff like that. They don't want you tapping into witchcraft. They don't want you tapping into voodoo. They don't want you tapping into any type of metaphysical practices that will open up your eyes to who you really are as a divine spiritual being having a human experience. And if you're a motherfucking Christian, you shouldn't be over this motherfucker anyway, because this is how I talk. Christianity is the one world religion of the beast. Let's just be honest. It is a terroristic network. I guarantee you that most of those ICE police officers call themselves Christians that are going after innocent Latinos and Mexicans who've been here forever, who don't fuck with nobody. Any of those criminals that you say are Latinos and Mexicans, they were brought over here later. Probably brought over here by the same people that are now trying to get rid of them. Just like George Bush, the first one, when he invaded Panama. That was so traumatic, me watching that, because I had Panamanian friends back then. When he sent those troops into Panama after Manuel Noriega, remember that? And then we found out years later that Bush and Noriega were really friends, and that was about drugs. And you motherfuckers want us to believe that everything that we hear from the government is true? And I'm not anti government, I'm anti bullshit. And you got these crazy Lyft drivers like Jose, who's a disgrace to Latinos and Mexican people, because I know that Latinos and Mexican people are really good people. They really some good people. I've been around them all. I've been around Latino and Mexican people all my life, and I'm not trying to be derogatory in the connotation, but I'm making the point. They're being vilified right now. They're being vilified in the most horrible way right now. But then again, a lot of y'all Latino and Mexicans, y'all voted for Trump. And I'm not saying Kamala Harris was any better. I'm not saying that, because I'm not left or right. I'm not even talking politics. I'm talking common sense. I'm talking spirituality. So what are we doing? I have an affinity for the Latino and Mexican community. I do. I have an affinity towards them. I've run across some that weren't that nice, but that's not my overwhelming experience with them. I guarantee you that most of those ICE agents, I guarantee you that most of them bow down and get on their knees to the false religion Christianity. That's a false religion. That's a cult. That's a cult that is designed to keep people locked out of their true divinity. And they misinterpreted, they lied, they twisted words of Jesus. They removed information out of the Bible and replaced it with bullshit. So, no, there are no Anunnakis coming back. When I start hearing them talk about aliens coming and all of that, they're talking about an upgrade in the divine natural anatomy of the collective. Let me say it that way, of the collective. But people are so dumb, stupid, and delayed here on earth that they believe whatever comes out of politicians' mouths. Anytime white boys, I'm talking to you white boys for a moment, anytime you all let that goofy ass motherfucker, Cash Patel, knock you all out the way, y'all let this goofy motherfucker take your position as the FBI director? Really? That's white boy world. You gonna let this goofy ass motherfucker take that position? What are we doing, white boys? That lets you know the very fact that they have that thing, that thing in position as the FBI director or the director of the FBI, that Cash Patel, that is all they never even let a black person get that position. They've never even let a woman get in that position. It's always been a white man. And white boys, y'all sleeping on the job like that? You letting them emasculate and effeminize you like that? You letting them take you out of your motherfucking game like that? Because I know at one time they would have never allowed no goofy looking motherfucker like that to be the FBI director. He's a loose cannon. He cannot have any type of intelligent dialogue. And this is who you all think is going to solve your problems. When he didn't even respond properly to Charlie Kirk's death. I'm sorry, his unalivement. He didn't even respond properly to that. So you know that there's something wrong in the sauce. He got into he was testifying before the Senate Intelligence Committee, I believe, and Jasmine Crockett, who I don't particularly care for her either. I think she's part of the game too. Just being honest. Um, he got into it with her in the Senate committee. They were going back and forth, and well, they weren't really going back and forth. She was telling him how unqualified she felt he was to be the FBI director, and when the who was it? Somebody asked him, "Do you want to respond to what she said?" I don't care what anybody says about me. I don't care. I don't care. That's a Pisces for you. That's a Pisces for you. When you back them motherfuckers into a wall, that's how they act because he's a Pisces. Of course you care, but you had no rebuttal because you're stupid and you are unqualified. White boys, you better get your motherfucking position back. You better find your balls again and get your motherfucking position back. Trump betrayed you by putting him in that position. You put a third world person in a position like that, a third world person that looks like he's on drugs. He doesn't even act or even present himself as an FBI director. There's a certain prestige and a certain, elegance and frequency that goes with that, or a certain type of reserve. If you are being questioned before the Senate Intelligence Committee and there's some serious questions that they have and you don't have a response, white boys, y'all better get y'all motherfucking job back. Y'all better take y'all shit back. You better take your mother. I'm talking about just with the FBI. Y'all need to take that back from that motherfucker. That Cash Patel, because he ain't shit. He ain't shit. And the thing is, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you something. For all we know, and I'm going to say allegedly, how do you know that the FBI didn't orchestrate Charlie Kirk's unalivement? How do you know? Because the FBI, CIA, all of them have a history of taking out people that they think are too powerful. See, we don't know what Charlie Kirk may have said or done to, he might have ruffled some feathers, some high level feathers within the government. How do we know? Maybe that's why Cash Patel didn't respond the way that he should have. See, when there's smoke, there's fire. When there's smoke, there's fire. And then where there is a mirror, you may find broken glass. How do we know? For all we know, that could have been an FBI orchestrated hit on Charlie Kirk. Because they're known for doing stuff like that. They're known for setting people up that they feel may become too powerful of a voice. And then what they'll do is they'll sit up and pretend like they really liked the person, but they were really plotting against the person all along. See, you all don't understand how deep this shit could go. These are deep levels that you all don't understand. And I'm not talking about the people that really watch me and vibe with what I'm saying. I'm talking about the people who think what they're seeing is all the truth. But you mad at gay people. And the people that are destroying your idols and orchestrating the destruction of your idols, they may use a gay person as a pawn, but the people that are behind the scenes orchestrating the destruction of your idols, it ain't no left, it ain't no gay people. A lot of times it's the same side that you're on that's destroying the people that are speaking the way that you want them to speak. And let me clarify. I know because that may sound a little convoluted. Let me just say what I'm saying. I'm sorry, let me clear up what I'm saying. Just like with Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, Martin Luther King was set up by the people that were with him. Malcolm X, there were black people that were trying to set him up. And it was black men who killed him. Probably the same people that called him brother. It's like the Juice effect. Remember the movie Juice? Tupac's character Bishop, he killed his friend Raheem and was sitting right up there in the funeral with the family, pretending like nothing happened. It was probably the right that got rid of Charlie Kirk, allegedly. Somebody within those ranks that really didn't fuck with him and really didn't like him and felt like he was a threat. But they want you to think it was the left because they want to keep the public going at each other because they know the public is stupid and dumb and gullible and falls for anything because you motherfuckers don't stand for nothing. You too busy mad at black people, or black people too busy mad at you, or you too busy mad at Latin people. Like somebody said, they shook the whole jar of ants up to make the ants think that every ant in that jar is against them while they sit up and monopolize. They got you stupid motherfuckers thinking some Anunnakis are up in the stratosphere or atmosphere or some bullshit like that. All of these illusions and psychosis. And you all still can't see it when it's right in front of you. And I know I don't know anything. I know I don't know anything. I know. Even if I don't know anything, and even if I am wrong, at least I can think outside the box. That's something that you all can't do, especially you weirdos on Facebook. These grown men on Facebook hollering and screaming and going crazy over a grown man that you didn't even know. And it comes off as fanaticism and homoerotic. So what are we doing here? They don't want you to say anything. I'm going to say what the fuck I want to. They don't want you to say anything. They want you to be quiet. They don't want you to respond to anything. You know, I was watching this movie with Brandy. It came out last year called The Front Room. And basically, it was about Brandy and her husband. She was married to a white man in the movie. And this white guy's stepmother came to live with them. And she was a psychotic, racist, sociopathic, fanatic Christian. And it just really shows the psychosis of America right now. America is up under a psychosis, and it's backed up by radical Christian terroristic um, mentalities and beliefs. And usually, the people that you think are on your team are the very ones that are stabbing you in the back. I've learned that that's just a proverb that I've learned throughout life. And that is why you have to have all hands eyes on deck. See, Charlie Kirk, his problem was he trusted too many people and he was too open. He should have, I thought he did. Did he have bodyguards? I don't know if he did or not, but he was too open with people because he was under the delusion effect and he was under the God effect. He thought nothing could happen to him. He thought that everybody loved him. So he did have some, he had somewhat of I don't want to call him pure, but he had a naivety about him, a naive nature about him. And that's how someone or some entity was able to get close enough to him to do what they did. Same thing with JFK. We still really don't know the real story behind JFK. There have been so many theories. One theory I even heard, Jackie was the one that killed him, that Jackie was really CIA. Jackie Onassis. Yeah, Jackie Kennedy Onassis, his wife, that she was really the one that did it. That's just the theory. So again, what are we doing? We are reliving psychosis, we are reliving insanity, and it's all backed up by this religion that they call Christianity, that they're weaponizing and using it to attack people. They're weaponizing and using it to unalive people. Anyway, I just had to come on here and say that, I wanted to get that off my chest. I don't give a fuck who it offends. I don't care if you unsub. I just, I don't care about that because we're living in a time now where we are being censored. Just like when I was on Facebook, somebody had made a comment about something, and here come all these white people. Nothing against white people, but here come these white people trying to tell this black guy that this situation had nothing to do with racism, and you need to grow up, and everything is not about racism. And I said, how the and I got on them about that. I responded to that. I did. Even if it didn't have anything to do with racism, which I don't think the situation did personally, to be honest with you, I don't. But even if it didn't, and I'm talking about something, a clip they showed on Facebook, but even if it didn't have anything to do with racism, which I don't think it did, I don't think the lady was racist. I think she was startled and taken back by the little joke the guy was playing on her. But why can't a person say that? Why can't a person say, hey, this is how I feel, this is how I look at something? Why are white people always so quick to tell a black person what they can and cannot fucking say? Or how they should and should not fucking feel? Or any non black person. You can't tell me a motherfucking thing. And I can't tell you a motherfucking thing. If you feel certain ways about black people, that's your prerogative. I'm not gonna argue with you. I don't see the point in doing that because you're not important enough to me to try to convince you why you shouldn't feel that way about me. The problem comes in when you try to harm me emotionally, psychologically, or in any other way. And then that's when I have to sit you down or put you to sleep like a dog. Okay? But you are entitled, and people are entitled to feel how they want. If you feel like black people are this and that, that's your fucking prerogative. But don't think you're going to come to me and spew all that to me and try to use or weaponize that against me personally and think I'm not going to say anything about it. That's where the problem comes in. And that's where you all get it fucked up. But you're entitled to your opinion. You can feel how you want to feel, but you all are loud about how you feel. It's the same thing with black people. You're entitled to feel how you want to feel too. But when you start becoming loud with it, where you want other people to hear it, then you're going to get some pushback. That's going to happen. They got everybody distracted in the air when we should really be down here on earth. Everybody's up in the air waiting for aliens, Jesus, Anunnaki. They playing all of these psychological games with you in the air so you won't pay attention to what's going on in your own collective consciousness. So the best way to divide people is through race, creed, ethnicity, sex, and politics and religion. And it's working. It's working. What a world, what a world, what a world. Anyway, this is the occult view. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.